Welcome to the Creative Entrepreneur Show. What do we have this week, Bryon?
Hey Rosh, happy to be here. We are two creative guys talking AI, and I feel like the whole AI world has exploded in the last couple days with big news of GPT Search.
Yeah.
I think you're going to be talking about that. I know I'm going to talk about it.
Yeah, that's the word of the day, search.
Oh, big time. Yeah, it's changed things. It's pretty cool. I've actually already used it to solve a pretty heavy problem that I was going to bring a piece of heavy equipment to the actual mechanic, and I'm like, no. Let's see if we could figure this out. So I'm excited to dive into that. And then also, for those of you who are just listening to us on, your drive or anything, first of all, we very much appreciate that. But I have some visual aids today, so I'm going to encourage, anyone to maybe pop over to our YouTube page and check it out. But I want to share with the audience how I used AI to build another guitar. So
Nice.
some of these guitars that are behind me are actually ones that I've kind of built, and I've got one a pretty cool project that I'm working on now, and I've been able to use AI to help with a bunch of steps along the way. So I'm excited to chat about that. And outside of GPT search, what else do you have going on today?
Well, there's something I was hoping to talk about last week and couldn't get to, and that is Act One. Are you familiar with that from
I am not.
Runway? Act
Okay, for Runway.
One. It's a game changer. It's just kind of rolling out. You can play with some examples, and I think you'll be pretty excited if you are into developing movies, videos with different characters.
Oh, I love it. This is great. Yeah. So, because I already love Runway, so I'm excited about that because there's only so many directions for musical videos that we can do with, clips in our own little rehearsal space. And, maybe if what you're saying is true, maybe, like I don't know if you remember the band The Gorillas, but
Yeah,
they had like these animated characters
yeah.
that showed up in all of their music videos and stuff like that. So I'm almost kind of thinking something in that direction now that you mentioned that. That's great.
Yeah,
So
no, and
excited.
that's absolutely possible. All right, let's get into it. Search this week, a notification yesterday popped up and said you now have access to Chat GPT Search. What did you do, Bryon?
Well, what did I do? First of all, I threw my usual prompts at it just to see the difference between what GPT would give me as an answer and
Hmm.
GPT search. And I was kind of blown away by just how different GPT search answers were.
Yeah.
So, one of the main things that I was really blown away by was how multimodal the reply was.
Hmm. Yes.
So, typically we're used to getting a reply from ChatGPT that unless you're specifically asking for an image and it creates just an image,
Right.
normally the reply is typically just text. And in this issue, and I'll dive into, what I used it for here. I've got a pretty big yard you've been over, and I've
Yeah.
got a zero turn mower. And that zero turn mower, I broke a spindle and bearing. So one of the
Oop.
actual blades like fell down out of the deck, and
Oh,
it
wow.
was this whole loud mess and everything. And I'm like, oh great, I got to put it on the trailer and bring it on down to my mower guy to have him look at it. And then, I took a peek at the damage of what happened, and I said, ChatGPT search. I have a Toro 40-inch zero turn mower, and I think I blew out the bearing and spindle on one of my blades. Is this something I can fix? And if I can fix it, what parts do I need? Where do I go for these parts? And, can you help me with this? And its reply absolutely floored me. I knew I like forwarded it to my brother right away. And I was just like, look at this. First of all, and I've got it up here on my phone in front of me. It first of all, it actually said, "I'm sorry to hear that you're going through this." When's the last time that Google,
No,
actually,
absolutely not.
replied that, "Hey, that's just an unfortunate thing that you had to search today, and I'm sorry that this happened, this damage, but here's step by step what can happen, how we can fix it." So then first step was, hey, identify the correct parts. And for this 40-inch deck on a Toro, it's probably this part number. And it shows me the part number. And then it references in a little parenthesis the Toro website where it got that information from.
Hmm.
So that's just very cool that I can go click that link, pop right over to Toro website and have full diagrams and get right in. And so that's cool. I've got the part number now. And then it says, hey, you might need some additional components. If it, failed, it might have taken out another blade or another pulley or the belt, different things like that. So inspect parts A, B, and C. Okay, cool. I didn't ask for that, but it gave me that next. So then next answer was the replacement procedure. a full six-step procedure of how to fix this, including
Nice.
all the proper safety things, making sure that you're on a
Yeah.
flat level ground, it's not running, the blades aren't spinning when these things.
Come on, you're fast, Bryon. You're
I
fast.
know, yeah, we can catch this. But yeah, so and then it, showed me how to access the spindle, how to remove the damaged one, how to install the new one, how to do any final checks. And then the last one, this is really the icing on the cake, Rosh. It said, hey, here's some additional resources. For a visual guide, you might find this YouTube video helpful.
Hmm.
It searched YouTube for this issue. And sure enough, and I was
Yeah.
again talking to my brother about this, if there's any car or machine or anything that's out there that has a common failure, you're going to find a YouTube video of somebody fixing it. I
Yeah.
fixed a dryer before doing
Yeah.
that. But just the fact that right there on my phone in the answer, here is the YouTube link
Yep.
to go and click. And that multimodal. And then last one before I want to see what you used it for. But the last thing was like, okay, now to purchase the parts. It was a little bit wrong here. It assumed I was in Roseville, Michigan. Now I
Yes.
am every now and then out that way. But I said, but it gave me a power equipment store that showed that they had this part in stock.
Hmm.
Like that blows me away. And then I replied and said, no, I'm in Farmington Hills. And there's like, okay, cool. Farmington Hills, you got a Weingarts right down the street. Here's the address. Here's the phone number. Here's the website.
Yeah.
Just, it was so easy getting the answer I was looking for. And it took
Did you get through the ads okay?
the ad. I didn't have any ads.
That's right. That's my point.
Exactly. You got me there.
Now,
That was great. I was like,
now,
yeah, well, I
I mean,
paid
the
20
thing
a month.
is,
Yeah.
yeah, they're gonna come. The ads are gonna have to come at some point to, I mean, that or very steep um, monthly fees, which they very well may be going up in the next year. Yeah,
Yeah.
to your point about the location thing, yeah, I did a hey how to get to thing, and it said I was actually in Farmington Hills,
Hmm.
the complete opposite of where I was. Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought the search was good. It gave me a nice long list, and in the one thing that is different certainly is that it gives you its resources, which is
Yes.
what Google doesn't do.
Right.
And but here's the thing, speaking of Google, Google obviously got wind this was coming, and guess what they did for Gemini just a few hours before? They granted it full search. So Gemini also has full search now, and it's fine. It's all good, but you're right. It can I did not like, honestly, I didn't like Gemini search at all.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
just was not very good. I mean, uh, ChatGPT search was much better. Google search is still solid, still good, does its thing. It's set up the way it's set up. But I think what people will find is ChatGPT search, at least for now, is refreshing because you're thinking, oh, this is what search was supposed to be. This is
Mm.
what search was when Google first put it out there. It was
Right.
a list answering your questions. I mean, obviously, some were better than others, but it gave you 10 options.
Hmm.
And ChatGPT gave me 10 options for some, three for others. It just depended on what it was. But there's some nice things, such as real time.
Yeah.
I asked real time news, real time market stuff, real time. So all that was very valuable. The only major thing was, again, to your point, was location. And perhaps if you haven't mentioned your location, it'll be interesting to see if it remembers next time that you're in Farmington.
And
What do
I
you
actually
think?
I thought it was kind of refreshing that it didn't in a Big Brother kind of way know exactly where I was.
Yes.
I had to tell it where I was. So that was kind of nice. But yeah, that was another thing I wanted to speak to is that in GPT before, if we asked something in a search type way, an inquiry that we would typically ask Google, we put it into Chat GPT and it would typically give an answer. It'd be okay, but it would only really give like two or three companies or suggestions.
Right.
And a few of times here, yeah, I had 7 or 10, very,
Yes. I
and
mean,
it
depending on what's
was
available and what's,
right.
and what is very telling also for those who want to be found, because you're going to want to be found by the AIs, is it
Yeah.
showing you where it's pulling information from,
Yes.
which certainly bodes well for folks such as yourself who are putting information out on social media, and but also directories. It's important to have directories, and if you have a good brand, it will
Right.
pull information from the brands too. So developing your brand, developing your social media, make sure you're listed everywhere you can. It's going to help you a great deal for AI SEO.
Yeah, and well, one of the things these AI programs are looking for is not so much that the company's doing all the right things behind its website in terms of SEO and stuff like that, but it's more understanding your company's reputation.
Yeah.
And that's why I've actually started to sell our social media services in a different way, as it's kind of, in a to a degree, it's reputation management.
Yeah.
When you're putting stuff up on social, you're controlling the narrative of your company by putting that stuff up there. And then the AIs now have more information to go off of your reputation, to then,
Yeah.
suggest you.
Absolutely. So, hey, ChatGPT search, it'll be interesting to see where you go. I mean, a lot of times it's just straight up for general use, asking questions and answers. And so it is a combination of search and, of course, AI answers. I would like to throw out a little bit of comparison. Some areas where I was having some issues with ChatGPT, and that was I was going in circles and circles with coding. And then I went over to Claude, and the coding was so much better
Okay.
over there. But then the issue was I ran out of service. I couldn't finish my coding. I would have to stop. So there's a frustrating thing on both sides. Better quality coding, but as you got
Yeah.
into it, it cut you off. Now you'll get cut off in ChatGPT too, but it's a lot longer, and you can always go to 4.0 if say 4.0 preview or 401 is done, or things like that. You have many more options, and you can kind of do that with Claude and so forth. So anyway, I thought I was going to talk a little deeper about that, but I thought I would share that, and I want to share one more thing because since we were talking a little bit of Google and Google AI and code, just throwing this in, Google released their data, and they mentioned that 25% of the coding that they do now at Google at enterprise level is all done by AI.
Wow.
25%. So I thought that was
25%.
interesting since we're kind of on that track. Thought I'd get
That's
those things out. A little bit of info for those who find that stuff interesting.
Well, it's a good amount of transparency for them to even admit that, because, think about how many coders, that were working for Google at one point, and they might be thinning their workforce to, use AI,
Yeah,
unfortunately. But
it's going to be the case, but there's also been a lot coming out lately with, say, Microsoft and Nvidia and all that, and people who are worried that AI is just going to take over everything. The fact is, right now, physics is on our side, meaning there's just not enough energy and power for AI to run everything. So they're still going to need us for a while. They're
yeah,
going to
just
need
for a couple
creative
more years.
people. I mean, well, I mean, unless they come up with a little nuclear power plant next to each one of their data centers, they don't have enough data centers. They don't have enough power to generate needed for
Wow.
the data centers to do what is needed to really do the things at the level that everybody's fearful of. So, yes, AI will be kind of in that assistant mode. I
Hmm.
think for a while now, the big issue is not how smart can we make it. We're making it pretty smart, but how much can we put it into everything? How much can it take over what we do? Well, it really can't, purely because we don't have the power and energy to do that. It's just physically
Fascinating.
impossible.
Yeah.
So that's a little glimmer for those who say, "Hey, I still like another 10 years, 20 years of career." You're gonna have you'll have a little bright spot there that, hey, you got a new great assistant, but it's
Right.
not gonna take over everything immediately.
Well, it's nice to know that, if it starts acting up, we can just pull the plug on it, right? I
Yeah,
mean, it needs that
exactly
much
right.
power to run.
Yeah.
But the issue is it's going to invent its own little nuclear power plant or a new way to develop power.
Well,
Probably. Well,
that's
but
gonna happen. Yeah, we're
yeah,
gonna have to figure something out because
inevitably, yeah, there's gonna be, and we're kind of on the precipice of a lot of inventions and things that are gonna be created from the mind of AI, of finding a solution that a human brain doesn't think of.
yeah. Oh,
And
absolutely.
could be a new form of power, or a better way to harness solar, or a better way to do, a lot of things that we didn't think of, until it
And that's
existed.
the hope of AI. But
Yeah,
here's
yeah.
the thing. you need the people to ask that question.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so again, as we often said, we're not worried about AI taking over our jobs. It's you have to worry about the people who know how to use AI taking over your job.
Right.
And yes, they will take, some teams may be slimmed down a little bit more, but there are going to be specialists and so forth. Because if you're, look, I do coding with AI. I can spend all day on a problem, especially when I find myself in that circular thing with, say,
Mhm.
ChatGPT, not finding the solution and it keeps not fixing the problem. And we go back and forth. As was said, sometimes you got to shut it down, start over again, start fresh. Or as I gave him one more chance and I said, I'm going over to Claude
You told it?
and
Oh no.
apologized. And I went, it tried one more time. It's like, same problem. You didn't fix it. I'm
Yeah.
gone. It was sad.
Oh my. And then the next time you log in, it's probably going to give you a little side eye, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Right.
How was your
All right.
weekend with Claude?
Yeah, exactly. All right. So what do you have next?
All right. So, a little visual here. So, I like to, as you could tell by the background behind me, I like, guitars, and I have more than I should. But I like to build them and I like to make them and do different things. So, I have this cool guitar body that I've had for a little bit here that I don't know if
Look at
it's going to
that.
be easy to see here on the shot, but I have sandblasted it so the wood grain comes out
Mm-hmm.
a little bit. And I am going to actually take a torch and hit it up with a torch so that way the actual wood grain, gets a little bit
Yeah,
charred and
right.
stands out. And then I'm going to stain it. And I got this really, really nice roasted Fender neck. And it's this really cool roasted maple color. And
Okay.
the
Yeah.
fretboard, it's got some cool marbling to it. Looks great. And I put a picture of the neck and I put a picture of the body. I uploaded them into ChatGPT. And I said, hey, I want to stain the body of this guitar, but I want it to match the coloring and the feel of that neck. Give me some suggestions of stain colors that I could use for this. So, having it actually analyze the neck and look. And then I said, not just that, give me a procedure of a good way to do this, of taking the torch to do that. It's a specific procedure or so I forget what it's called, but um so it said, hey, it replied, hey, this looks like a cool project. I'm glad to see that you're doing this. And I said, well, yeah, I want your help. I want to see what this is going to what this could look like when I'm done. So then I can pick out some other things like the right color pick guard or the right color knobs. So give me a rendering of what you think this is going to look like when it's done. And Rosh, it was almost perfect.
Oh,
It,
nice.
yeah,
Nice.
I mean, because sometimes when we ask
Yeah.
ChatGPT or Dolly, which is what it's using, to make an image, sometimes it can be out in left field, or sometimes it really nails it.
Right.
And I saw one and it came back and I was like, I wasn't even thinking that color pick guard, but I love it. It looks so good. But I said, all right, try this again, maybe with the black pick guard, or let's try this again with gold hardware. And it created almost the same image every time, but swapped out exactly what I asked it to do.
Nice.
So it was cool to be working on a project like this. And I've built it in my head thus far, but to actually have a rendering of what it's going to look like when it's done, um, to then make changes and modifications. So I thought that was a different way of kind of being multimodal with ChatGPT to upload images, tell them my goal, what my project is, and then, hey, tell me what you think this is going to look like when it's done.
Yeah.
Have you done anything like that? Or
Not like that. No. I have, you know, with, as I said, I was coding with Claude, and Claude was really doing a really good job of connecting into libraries automatically and pulling in information to make things more visual than
okay,
ChatGPT.
yeah,
But I do, I mean, I certainly have uploaded stuff as we've talked about before. What is this, or what is this in my yard? But not a creative project like that. So that
yeah.
you're
Well, I
always
figured
a kind of step or two ahead of me on that kind of stuff. So
in our audience, being creative entrepreneurs, whatever it is you're working on, if you want to maybe get a rendering of what it could look like when you're done, ask it. It's pretty cool.
yeah,
And then there's one other step to this project that I definitely wanted to mention is my good friend, his name is Jameis. He's the bass player from the Moonwreckers. Thank you again.
yep,
You came out to our show there a few weeks ago and you got to see
yeah,
them play. But he actually bought himself a pickup winder. So pickups are, they go on the guitars. They're,
Mhm.
a spool of wire, and it's sometimes spooled, 7, 8,000 times. It's spun, and you're not going to do that by hand and get the
Right.
precision that you're looking for. So he actually bought a pickup winder. So I knew I was working on the Stratocaster project and said, "Hey, Jameis, would you be interested in winding a set of pickups for my Strat project?" And he was, immediately when he bought this tool, he wanted to be able to help, all of his friends
Yeah,
and
right.
musician buddies. And then I learned that he was actually using ChatGPT as well to know what spec and how many winds to and what wire and everything to
Oh,
get
wow.
to because I told him, I want these pickups to be kind of like the early 1960s. So the Stratocaster came out in the mid 50s, and the first ones were known for being very clear and chimey and very high, a lot of high frequencies. But in the early 60s, it was more like a Stevie Ray Vaughan tone where it was like a little thicker, a little warmer,
Mhm.
not, and he, asked ChatGPT and, got the answers that he was looking for and made ones to exactly like 1962, 1963 spec and was able to verify. And then as he's sending me, the information back, I didn't know he was using ChatGPT, but I'm
You
actually
just thought he
taking
was really, really
screenshots.
smart.
Yeah, well, I'm taking screenshots of our conversation and uploading them to ChatGPT and being like, "Hey, what does this mean?" And we were talking like resistance factors of this wire that's spun 8,000 times. So, talking about ohms and kilo ohms and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
okay.
And, stuff I remember from electronics class in high school and everything. But, I wanted just some more clarity of exactly what he meant. And pretty much it came back to me and being like, your buddy, it looks like he's making some great pickups. So it looks like all of his specs are right in line. His resistance numbers are great. This should be really good for your. And then it referenced my Stratocaster project that I was talking about before. So
Nice.
he's this
You
should be
remember.
great in your sandblasted Strat project. And I'm like, wow, this is just, just these projects that before I might be flying blind and not having the information that I would have, being able to have AI, help guide and help give information and just kind of give me a pat on the back and let me know I'm headed in the right direction it
Yeah,
was really cool.
very cool.
So, all right. Well, speaking of creative endeavors that I want to use more of, please educate me on Act One of Runway.
So Runway, which is one of our favorite tools that we need
Absolutely.
to do more with. I've been playing with it for quite a while. You've been playing with it for a while, and they last week or 2 weeks ago introduced Act One. Act One allows you to use a video of yourself saying whatever you want to say, movements of your mouth and your head and so forth. It'll track all that, and you can apply it to a animated character or a actual person. They have a whole list, pretty decent size list of different types of characters that you can use. I think eventually you'll be able to kind of create your own character, but right now it'll make a 10-second clip, and so I put one up. I just did a video of me talking, and kind of maybe a little animated in the way I was talking and what I was referencing, just to see how well it worked. And I picked one of uh, the cartoon style people and said, put it together. And there it was. That was a version, in a sense, of me in this character, moving the way I was moving, talking using my voice. And so you can do
Wow.
exactly what you were talking about,
Yeah.
that you could create a character, and it could be, some type of a cartoon animal if you wanted, or to your
Yeah.
point, a gorilla, and whatever it may be, that is now entertaining people with your music.
Very, very cool. Yeah, I'm tempted to open it up right now as you're talking about it, but I need to stay focused on the show. But yeah, I'm very excited with that because I have a ton of footage that we've used in the past, and it can start, creating a thing and a mood to go along with our music. So that's very,
But
very
even
cool.
with your clients, if you have something that you want to do that you could be unique or something like that,
Hmm.
that represents them in some way down in the future, you could
Hmm.
maybe create with AI a specific look of a certain character that kind of represents the brand, and
Right.
then somebody can speak in that way just to, get attention in some way. I mean, there's going to be so many different ways to present your brand, your ideas, who you are, your company, that there's still going to be a lot of uniqueness. Now, obviously, there is a finite number of examples within Runway right now, so you're going to start to see the same character over and over again as people are playing with this. But that's that's going to expand, and you're going to
Right.
be able to maybe upload something and say, "Hey, turn this person into a character of this style." This because I mean, obviously, Runway can do that right now, and
Right.
then and now use this style, and maybe if we dig in, it can do that, but I have a feeling it can't yet. But it's just a flip of a switch before you can do that, and then you upload your client or you and say, "Hey, make a character in this style or that style or whatever it may be, and now let's create a movie."
Yeah, it'll be like a text to character. It'd be like, I
Yeah,
want something that looks like Tony the Tiger, but he's wearing a orange vest or
I
something,
think you've
and you
coined a
custom
phrase, text to character. I
text
think
to
said
character.
here
There you
first
go.
on the
Yeah.
Creative Entrepreneur Show.
I like it. Hey, I think I mentioned AI agents too before that was really a thing. So we're
Yeah.
gonna, we'll start
People
getting all
will look
these.
back in history at this show
Yeah.
and say, "Wow, those guys on the forefront all the way
It-
through."
well, speaking of that, and this is just a side note that I saw a video of Steve Jobs talking in like 1986
Mhm.
about having a book from Aristotle,
Yeah.
and saying, I can read his writing and I can interpret the way he thinks, but I think eventually we're going to have a computer that you can actually talk to Aristotle and have him
Yeah.
reply as Aristotle. And it
Yes.
was like, the caption of the video was pretty much like Steve Jobs talking about AI back in
Right.
1986. Because,
Exactly.
we had that a guest a few months back talking about in the education space, how they create avatars of
Yes.
Einstein and these different
Right.
famous people where they upload, all this information, and it's as though you're having a conversation with someone of his thinking and, intellect level. And that's just, yeah. So just a little
Yeah.
side note, sidebar of, of how long the plans in motion for this AI has been for some time.
Very good. All right. Keeping you creative with AI. We're two creative guys. Well, talking AI. We'll talk to
Talking
you all
AI.
next week.
See you next week.